Welcome to the String Theory of the Unexplained. I'm your host, John Ventry, and our co-host is Fred Saluga. This week, we're going to talk about Robert Bigelow and Tom Delonge and this new initiative that's out in the news. So welcome to the String Theory of the Unexplained. Well, Fred, let's talk about this. What's going on right now? It's all over the news. It's been covered, actually mainstream, and by just about everybody. So, it's funny. I look at it as though this could be the start of something, and what is the future of us? Right. Which is like how I want this to kind of go. Like, okay, so if they got this or made contact or whatever it is, where does that take us? And that's where the episode will end up. Where does it take us? Not so much as it God or evolution or creation, but maybe that is the question. I don't know. But, I guess that is the question. Right. I mean, and that was the basis of a book I wrote in 2014, An Alternative History of Mankind. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, Fred, almost all my books have dealt with how did we get here, what are we doing here, did we evolve, were we genetically engineered, or did God create us, like they said, 6,000 years ago, So that seems to be a theme in a lot of my work, So let's take a look at what happened here. It's election day 2016, right? So Trump is running against Hillary, right. And at the same time, you got all these dignitaries that go to Antarctica, of all places. You have John Kerry, Buzz Aldrin, the Russian Orthodox Pope, and others. They're in Antarctica. And it's almost as though they're getting ready to make an announcement, thinking Hillary is going to win and Trump wins. And if you remember, Fred, when you're watching election night, it was like almost like the polls, they were saying Hillary's winning, and then
lost. Yeah.
And then she lost this state.
Yeah.
Hillary winning, she lost that state. And that's the fake news.
Right.
That is where everything is spun and manipulated. I tell you, Fred, I don't think there's one thing that's true. Mm. Everything is spun for who's paying for it. Because people will follow what they see in the media.
Well, if you say Hillary's winning, people will vote for Hillary because they want to vote for a winner.
They want to say I voted for the winner.
Yeah,
and that's what they were trying to influence in the polls. Yeah. So what happens is Hillary loses. There's no announcement coming out of Antarctica, which, is, from Project High Jump in 1946-47,
right.
We sent an aircraft carrier, 4,600 troops and 13 vessels down there. And it lasted 6 months, and Admiral Byrd makes a comment she stops in Chile on the way back after they pulled out, and he makes a comment that they can fly pole to pole and an attack could be imminent.
Right.
And there were people like David Wilcock and Dr. Robert Woods and others that I've talked to who said there was a major battle took place in Antarctica.
Supposedly it did. That's where everything's classified.
Yeah. And you know what they did too at that time is they signed an international agreement that nobody could claim anything in Antarctica until I think it was I don't remember, it was 2002, 2008. Oh. But you're allowed the scientific base down there,
right.
But a country couldn't claim part of Antarctica for themselves, But so we got that. So, and I had read, maybe it was a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that at Lake Vostok there, they were picking up like energy, not a signal, but almost like a heat signal. They said could be a nuclear reactor under Lake Vostok. Okay, so there is something there, and Hitler had the base 211.
Right. Yeah. Allegedly Hitler had a base there, and that's where he met the aliens at.
Yeah.
That's where they got their technology.
And Hitler was trying to get secret knowledge, alien knowledge, hollow earth knowledge, right? Because he was very occult, and he was trying to get that to win the war. So it seems like there's something in Antarctica, and for them to be there on election day, you could say it doesn't make sense, but maybe it makes perfect sense why they were there, So then what happens, a year goes by, and I think this stuff is all planned out. I think they have a timeline, an agenda, how they're going to introduce all of this. So a year later, December of 17, we're told about this Advanced Aviation Threat ID program. And it was based on, well, they showed us two cases that involved the USS Nimitz, where Senator Stevens there and saw some sort of UFO. And that's how Harry Reid was able to get the funding for Bigelow for this project.
Well, but a lot of the funding for Bigelow was black budget.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, we don't know where the money came
That's
from.
not coming from Congress.
Yeah, we don't know exactly
Yeah,
where it
well,
came
it's
from,
coming from Afghanistan.
but well, it could be, or wherever, the $6,000 toilet seats and, the $3,000 cups that they purchased because they need the money to run that other program.
Right,
So they
right.
overspend on this one. It's such a joke, but that's what's going on. So, but then they also showed the Navy pilot who, and that's become the famous part of the video where he sees something, it stops, it spins, it takes off at an incredible speed, which had nothing to do with this funding, had nothing to do with the Nimitz,
Right.
it was like thrown in, to prove that there's something out there, And somebody said that what that was when they saw it spin was the gun camera rotation under his jet, like the camera spun, not the object.
Right.
But I don't remember seeing the cloud spin. I think the object spun. I'll have to go back and look at it, but I don't think it's the camera that turned, because the clouds didn't spin with the craft that he was looking at. $22 million was moved over to Bigelow, which was at the time private. And Bigelow also, see, he's got an ego. All of this is going in the news, and he's in the background. He had to get on 60 Minutes, give an interview where he basically said that there's been an existing presence, an ET presence, and I have spent millions and millions of dollars. And he told the reporter, when she said, "Do you really think aliens are here?" He said, "Yeah," and he says, "I don't really care what you think."
Right.
But here's the thing, in talking to some of these people, and I met him about 5 years ago in Vegas at the MUFON Symposium, the benefactors reception. I stood and talked with him for 20 minutes. He wanted to talk about colonizing Mars. I mean, he's a smart guy, and it was a good conversation. We sat there, we had a drink, we talked about colonizing Mars. But the thing when I talk to some of these people and government people, it's like the word ET to us means extraterrestrial.
Right.
But to them, they kind of use the word ET, alien, to just mean they're not human. So it's alien to us.
Right.
And one of them, I even said, "Well, how do you know it's not interdimensional?" And he said, "So what? It's still alien to us."
Right.
Well, I said, no, but you're implying you're talking about ET, extraterrestrial from space. And I don't think that's what we're dealing with.
Well, no, because the whole thing is, the majority of them is probably here already. I think a lot of the stuff ain't coming from up there, it's coming from down here.
Well, it's related to Earth,
Yeah,
and I agree with that. And I'll be honest with you, Fred, when I got on the MUFON board in 2011, and I remember going to my first board meeting, I brought with me the Fire Officer's Guide to Disaster Control,
Right,
Chapter
right.
13 on the UFO threat.
Right.
I brought with me, the next meeting was the Physics 370 chapter, Chapter 33 on UFOs.
Right.
You know, nobody in the board knew about that.
They don't care about it.
But I'm sitting there saying to myself, how do you not know about this stuff? How do I know about it? And how you've been on the board 18 years. How do you not know about this stuff? And, but Fred, here's my point. I'm not trying to throw,
Yeah.
but the thing, it just struck me odd. But in talking to these people, they have like one perspective. It's not a big perspective. It's almost a 30,000 foot view. Whereas somebody showed them that footage from the pilot, and they said, "That's it, we got it."
Yeah.
But dude, but to us, so what is it?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to
the whole thing
that.
is, they're just worried about the UFOs coming down. They could care less about what goes on with them.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I think it's about the technology. I think
Yeah.
it's all about getting that technology.
We already got it.
We got some of it.
We got a big majority of it.
I agree with you. We got some of it, you know. So the thing, but I tell you what though, George Knapp interviews Harry Reid.
Right.
And you gotta remember, they're all from Nevada.
Yeah.
They're all, you know, Bigelow, Reid, Knapp, and they all know each other. John Alexander lives there, Colonel Alexander, they're all together. So Knapp is interviewing Reid, he makes two comments, and this kind of goes over everybody's head. And I played it back. And I said to myself, this is what Harry Reid says. Knapp asks him about Satanism. And Reid kind of has a little smirk and he says, yeah, there's a lot of groups concerned about Satanism. And he kind of like laughs it off. When did you last hear a discussion of UFOs and aliens along with Satanism, other than me saying it over the last 3 years, because nobody else really talks about that.
That's true there, Joe.
I know. But it was something talked about years ago.
Right.
You know? So
Yeah, back in the 60s, that was a big thing.
Right.
I mean, you know, you're looking at mostly every investigator back then of some renown. You got George Valet, you got, what's his name from
Keel.
Point Pleasant?
Keel.
I mean, they all said they were demons. I mean, you know.
Yeah,
So.
and then we got away from that. So, but then it comes up here with Satanism. The other thing Reid says is, if you think, any group who thinks they have this figured out, you have no idea. To me, Fred, that means all of the people who think the aliens are from space, which is, if you did a poll, where are aliens from, they're going to say space.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
97% of
Yeah.
people. So he's saying, if you think you got it figured out, you're wrong.
Right.
You have no idea. And that goes hand in hand with what we've been saying. This is an interdimensional phenomenon. It's
Right.
not from outer space. It's based here on Earth or on dimension of Earth.
But they don't want people to know that.
Oh, I think that's scary. I think
Yeah.
that's scarier
Yeah.
than from space.
Yeah.
So the other thing we did with your help was we filed 2 FOIAs to get a copy of the 490-page report, Advanced Aviation Threat ID Program, ATIP.
Right.
So we got 2 responses back. We did one through MUFON PA and one through one of the investigators,
Right.
just to see if they messed with us. But we got the same response back on both.
Yeah.
That they're putting it together. They got like 11,263 other things that they've asked, you know, they have to produce paperwork for. So they're going to give it to us. So I'll be honest with you, Fred, I'm not really expecting to find out a lot from
It's all
that.
going to be redacted.
Or either that or it's not in there. I just want to read page 490 that has the conclusion.
Yeah.
489 and 490. I want to see what the conclusion
It'll be nothing
is.
but black.
I don't, or what they found out was after. So they had the funding from 07 to 12. I'm thinking in 13, 14, 15 they found something. It's
Right.
not part of that. That's my
Yeah.
opinion. It's not going to be there, but we asked for the Freedom of Information report anyhow. So then enters Tom Delonge and his To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. Now he says a couple of things that I find, because you gotta, you know, Fred, you were a police chief. I was head of security. We're trained in interviewing, interrogating. I was trained, certified in behavioral analysis,
right.
body language. But you got to listen to certain words.
Right.
Like Harry Reid could talk for a half hour, but he said 2 things that got my attention.
Right.
So Tom Delonge talks. He says a couple of things that gets my attention. Right. So you know what he says though is that you know, here are the 6 guys involved. The pen-like looking thing on the right side here is some advice and device, and he says that there's advanced high-speed craft that can move through water and time.
Right.
And you know, he basically says that you could be drinking this, you could be reaching
Right.
for it. He can move through time and take it and put it here. And you would say, almost like the Matrix,
It's like
you know?
quantum physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says, and see, I think they do have something.
Right.
I think we've developed some technology, whether it came from aliens, I'm not so sure about that, but I think they have advanced technology. I really do. So he says there's advanced craft that can move, and if you heat up electrons around a craft, like you can move through water, You can move through air quicker also because everything that comes gets repelled around it. So, I mean, it's not really new science, but then he makes a couple of other remarks that, like these 6 guys, he says they're heroes fighting demons. That's what he said. Heroes fighting demons. I don't know if he read my books. So my lectures,
But that could be,
that's what he said.
he could be talking in a different context of demons.
Possibly, but I don't think so because he goes on to then talk about consciousness, and now you're talking about dimensions. You're talking about a dimension with consciousness. You're not
Right.
talking about space, you know. So one of the guys I want to point out in this this group of 6 here is Hal Puthoff, right? He's one of them, and you know, he talks about bending space, remote viewing. He was a Scientologist and a member of NIDS. And, you know, I'm going on the record here, and I think we're the first to bring this up. I say Bigelow is a silent partner of this group, that Bigelow is involved with this group.
Bigelow made the group.
I agree with you.
And they're doing Bigelow's bidding, and Bigelow's sitting back collecting.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the title of the National Institute for Discovery Science, and you look at To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, come on, it has a Bigelow ring to it.
Right.
And that's what I think, and we're the first to say that. But they recently went public with the group. They raised around $2.6 million. Their video mentions consciousness. And I think by going public, you can figure out probably who's everybody involved. Maybe. I don't know if that gives you shareholders. I don't know if it does or it doesn't. But they're basically selling $5 a share. You have to buy 40 shares for $200, $5 a share, and it's a common stock. Not enough to do a whole lot with, 2.6 million. You know, you can't even make a good movie for that. We can make these episodes. And it's 2.5 million more than MUFON ever raised.
But they got black budget money coming in up to Goo.
I know.
You know?
Yeah, he got 22 million.
Yeah.
Imagine what MUFON could have done with $22 million. But
Same thing you're doing now.
Yeah, but we don't get it. So then what happens, Fred? And you're aware of this, and I call it the Me Too debunkers, because you know how it is in this field. If you come out and say something revolutionary, all the others, big names in the field, are going to come out and debunk you.
Right.
Because they didn't say it.
Right.
They have to be the center of attention.
But we got them in every field.
Yeah, every field. I agree. Every field has where, you know, if the Bigfoot hunter guy says something, the other Bigfoot guy is going to come out against them. So I call it the Me Too debunkers, right? And who it was Grant Cameron, who a lot of people respect Grant. You know, he has that presidential UFO site, and he was one of the first to come out debunking this thing. And then of course David Wilcock comes out. You know, David Wilcock, who probably tells the best stories of everybody, and I think there's an ounce of truth in them. And he's your ancient alien guy. You know,
well, so a whole bunch of them on there is about like that.
Yeah. So you know, if they weren't the first to come out with it, then it can't be true.
Right.
Because they have to be the one who breaks the story of the century. And that's always been the problem in this field. So they come out and say, this can't be, right? So now, MUFON Journal comes out with this cover saying December 16th, the date of the announcement. And they say announcement day, and it shows that craft. Right? The world changed on Saturday, December 16th. Okay, the Pentagon has admitted publicly an active interest in UFOs. That's true, right? The New York Times and Politico were the ones who put it out there, and the Times put it on their front page, right? So, you know, they basically say that the Pentagon had a program to study UFOs. So at least now they can never again say we don't investigate UFOs based on Project Blue Book. So they just killed the Blue Book for the last 50 years. Right. And we knew they were lying about that anyhow, on different cases, you know. But the thing is, when DeLonge comes out with all of this, the Pentagon distances itself from this ATIP group and the announcement. According to Elizondo, that there are something out there interfering with military weapons platforms, and it's displaying next generation capabilities. Okay, I agree with all of that, right? And that this proves there's exotic technologies out there. I agree with that. The Times put it on the front page, which I think was the first time they ever put a UFO article out there. And it says that UFOs are real. Okay, UFOs are real, but are they from space?
Right.
And I'm still saying it hasn't been proven they're from space. I'm thinking it's interdimensional. So MUFON gets its video analyst involved, Mark D'Antonio, and he says it's impossible from the footage provided to determine if it's extraterrestrial. Okay? He says it doesn't perform any motions that are not consistent with an aircraft engaged in a cat and mouse dogfight. So, because it throws off a heat signature that masks the plane,
Right.
and you get this fuzzy object. So that's why he's saying that. He says his analysis is inconclusive. But then you got pilot David Fravor, who now says that there was something they saw the size of a Boeing 737, 10 to 15 feet under the water, causing a disturbance. I guess from the planes they could see this
Right.
thing under the water. They call it a UAP. It was zigzagging, and then it came out and it was zigzagging in the sky. I'd like to see the footage of it emerging from the water.
Yeah.
That's the one I want to see, you know? But that's what he says. So then he says also the radar, which was from the USS Princeton, said that there's a fleet of them had been reported to be hanging out for weeks. Well, don't you think we should have a lot more video and stuff if they were hanging out for weeks?
Well, they do, but they ain't showing it to
They ain't
us.
giving it to us.
Right,
So
right.
much for freedom of information, right? And then it took off at 20,000 miles per hour. You know, our planes fly about 600 miles an hour, pretty much, you
But
know.
I mean, with that there, now you look at Lake Erie. How many reports have we had that UFOs went into Lake Erie and never came out?
Right, a lot.
So is the whole thing, when they hit the water, did they become interdimensional? And they can actually go below the water into the ground?
That, or there's a way of doing something with electrifying the skin of the plane so that the water moves out of its way. So it doesn't stop it like hitting cement. It just goes, it go into water
Lake
like
Erie
butter.
ain't that deep.
No, it's
So
not.
whatever it is, it's going,
Yeah.
you know.
It's not. So the whole thing behind this is to push Congress to provide more funding to find out exactly what it is. And they were very careful not to say who is operating the crafts.
Okay, but now you notice now that Trump made the announcement the other day, he does not want the military running the space station now.
Yeah.
He wants private people up there that can do better research, so to speak. Here you
Bigelow.
go, right there.
Bigelow.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
provides the pods
Yeah.
for NASA.
Right.
You know, so I mean they're all intertwined,
Yeah.
and this is planned out. And I think there may be some sort of disclosure coming.
10
It's going
years
to take
from
a
now.
year or two.
10 years from now.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're going to slowly get you to believe, like all the other engineering that goes on in the media, to believe something else that isn't quite true. But they're working on it, you know, and I think it's all planned out. So here's the thing. Like I said, you know, you get this group, and they're all PhD people. They're all got great resumes and
Right.
stuff, but they seem to be impressed by, you know, a testimony and a video and what a pilot said.
Mm.
But like us, we're not impressed with
Right.
it. And I'll tell you why. Because we've been getting this for
Right.
50 years.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
think about it, you know, it's funny. John Schusler years ago sent me a cassette tape of the 1965 Edwards Air Force Base audio, where there was a UFO at Edwards Air Force Base in '65, and they said, let's refer it to the UFO officer.
Yeah.
You know, so we know that they had UFO
Well,
officers.
every base had an officer.
Right.
When they had Kecksburg, they called the UFO officer from Youngstown.
Yeah. So there's audio tape,
Yeah.
right? It's not proving anything. You have the Mantell and Valentich audio tapes, right? Where they described the large metallic object that were getting closer. You heard clanging sounds, and then the plane crashes and they die, right? I think Valentich was crashed in the ocean. They never found him.
No, he went into,
Or
they come together.
they could have taken
and
him.
both of them.
Mantell crashed in Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know, okay, so then if pilot testimony is good, like that Fravor guy,
Yeah.
well, isn't astronaut testimony even better? and you got You got Gordon Cooper, Borman, Armstrong talking about seeing UFOs, right? Armstrong on the moon, Borman flying when they were heading to, or orbiting the moon, and Cooper on a base in Germany. So, okay, so we've seen all of this before. You got the space station video, STS.
Yeah,
You know, you've got all of those videos where we saw something just take off, right? 2004, you got the Mexican military video. Remember where the Mexican planes videoed like 11 lights moving through the sky?
Uniform went down there. With Bigelow.
2006, you got the O'Hare Airport.
Right.
You have the audio tapes of them talking between the tower and the witnesses who worked there that they saw a UFO. Okay?
That's the one that went straight up.
Yeah, and it shot right through the cloud, right? And then in 2010, you have China on 2 different incidents in 2010 closing their airport because there was a UFO hovering. They closed the airport. So now you got Tom DeLonge and this group of high-level smart people that worked, a lot of them in the government. But I have to say, are they new to this field?
They're the bunkers.
No, they're not the bunkers. They're gonna put something out, but they're
they
impressed with a video.
They were at one time. They're playing the game right now.
Well,
they're going to come out a little bit by little bit by little bit. They know it's all true.
Yeah.
But they can't just come out and say it's true.
Right. But I think my point is, we've got all this video and testimony, which is why we're not jumping up and down saying disclosure, which is why MUFON called it announcement, not disclosure, because we've seen all of this before. Right. And when I saw that video, I said, I've seen stuff like this before on older videos. So I think that's why they got $2.6 million and not $26 million in donations.
Look at the thing out in Philadelphia that, what's his name, got. The airplane coming in and all the UFOs were there.
Yeah, Cliff.
Yeah. Who?
Are you talking about the case with Cliff with the six of them docked together?
No, Melicott.
Oh, okay.
Okay, right. And they said, they got it, and then once the Air Force found out that they gave them something they shouldn't have gave them, they wouldn't give them no more. They want $50,000 for the rest of it.
Yeah, they shut down. We were getting FOIA stuff through a military site, not the FAA.
Right.
And when they found out about it, they shut that branch of the FOIA down, and where we couldn't get any more information because they gave us something. So let's take a look at Bigelow. And none of this is illegal. This is just business, right? But let's take a look at Bigelow, who I say is the most interesting man around. He's born in 1945 in Nevada. I guess he's 42 years old. 1987, he I don't know if he purchased or just created the Budget Suites hotels. 20 years later, in a stroke of luck, he sells it right before the real estate housing collapse. He made a ton of money, right? So 7 years later, in '94, he funds the UFO Research Committee, made up of MUFON, CUFOS, and the Fund for UFO Research, right? A year later, he comes out with the National Institute of Discovery Science. The year later, in '96, he buys the Skinwalker Ranch for $200,000. '99, Bigelow Aerospace is now creating those pods for NASA that they kind of screwed together and creating a space center out there. '07 to 12, for 5 years, you got the $22 million of funding through Harry Reid, who I'm sure Bigelow gave a very nice campaign contribution to, because that's how it works, and he got $22 million in funding. So then, the interesting thing is, '08, we're doing investigations for MUFON. They come out with the STAR team, which is funded by Bigelow, right? So he used some of that $22 million in '08 and '09 to fund the MUFON investigations, which came to $672,000. Which was a good thing, because you and I pay for this out of our pocket. You told me, how many miles a year do you put on your car?
About 60.
1 year?
Yeah.
60,000 miles a year, because you're running all over the place on every one of these cases, And, I don't do that, but I go around myself, so we're paying for this ourselves. So now, back then, it was good. that Bigelow was funding these investigations, and all he wanted was the information.
Right.
He's trying to find out, describe it, let me read the report. He's putting a database together, so there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Then in 2017, Bigelow makes his 60-minute interview talking about an alien presence, which I don't know that that means from outer space, you know. And then in 2017, you have the Academy to the Stars, and I say he's a silent partner or silent founder of this group, that this came from him.
Well, I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look
this
at it,
is
you'll see
his.
his name in there.
Yeah, somewhere in that
In the background.
filing with the stock market, you're going to find that. FTC, you know, Federal Trade Commission. All right, let's take a look at the board of NIDS. So here are some familiar names that worked there on his advisory board. Colonel John Alexander,
Right.
who's going to be at our Philly conference, right? You have Edgar Mitchell, who passed away. You know, he was, what was he, Apollo 14, I think, Edgar Mitchell.
Yeah.
You have Hal Puthoff, who's the chairman of the board, and the Puthoff name comes up again and again. You got John Schuessler, who was a founder of MUFON, right? You have Jacques Vallée, who we all recognize, Colm Kelleher, who wrote the book, The Hunt for the Skinwalker with George Knapp. So it's all the same players that you see in each of these different branches.
But don't you find it interesting? Bigelow is looking in outer space. Okay, that's his thing. But he buys the Skinwalker Ranch. So what was he looking for there but interdimensional activity, which they say was occurring there? So he's actually putting the two together, and that's how he worked at it.
Isn't there always a diversion?
Oh, yeah.
They have you looking over here when the real work is going on
Yeah.
over here. Is space a diversion?
No.
I'm thinking that, you know, Fred, after 22 years of doing this, and you probably got 30 or 40, I don't know how long, the whole space thing to me seems like the diversion.
It is.
You know, it's either
Unbelievable.
our military stuff that we
Yeah.
are developing, or it's something interdimensional which has its own history. And it could be something from space.
But John, okay, if you look back before Christ, buildings that were built, they had pictures of spacecraft.
Flying
back.
objects.
So did they go back? They stayed here.
But
They
did,
stayed here.
but did they come from space, or were they interdimensional?
Well, that we don't know, but they stayed here.
Yeah, could
Okay.
very well be.
You know, and today we're looking at people we think is us. They ain't us. They're actually them. So everything we're doing today was picked back then. You know, they know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, or they're engineering it.
Yeah,
They
they're
may not know
engineering,
the future, but they're trying to
Yeah,
influence it, definitely. So then, you know, what I read was NIDS, one of the last things they did in '04 was they did a triangle study of triangular craft, right? So they said it intensified in the late 90s, and the odd thing about these triangular craft, which, you know, could be that TR-3B that we always heard about, was they were flying over populated areas, and that's
Right.
not consistent with the Department of Defense aircraft.
Yeah, they're
They-
still are.
Yeah, but they didn't fly the stealth craft over Pittsburgh.
Right.
But they're flying these triangular craft. Either they know if it crashes, it's not like an atomic explosion.
Right.
It's got some sort of anti-gravity.
Well, we had that one case down in West Virginia. It was all kind of hell raised about it.
Mhm.
Coal miners down there, they
Yeah.
were working in a coal mine. About 15 of them, they came out, they were standing there smoking a cigarette. 3 triangular craft came over, bigger than a football field. They said they were doing no more than 15 miles an hour. Because I talked to 3
They
of
should
them.
have fell.
Okay, they came over, and then there was a red craft behind them, was following them.
Well, that's the one to make sure they don't crash. They can
Yeah.
radio it in and everything,
Yeah.
you know?
But like he said, I mean, there was no noise or nothing. They just went just right over, like, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, we had the plane crashed in the Three Rivers, right? I ride my jet skis there. You know, I have
You talk about the B-25.
Yeah, I have a Lowrance on my jet ski
Mm.
that tells me the depth, and the deepest part of the rivers is about 26 feet, 27 feet.
That was a cover-up too.
Well, where did it go if it's only 27 feet
Wait a
of
minute.
water?
Whoa. What they did, when they was bringing the barges down, remember they said the barge unhooked?
Yeah,
It didn't. It pulled it downstream about 25 miles and they took it out.
Yeah.
They've had people have seen it.
at that
Yeah.
very well-funded secret business, don't say who it is that's there, that
Yeah.
we know about,
Right.
right? Okay, so they say it's sightings take place near cities, over interstate highways. They're seen at low altitude in plain sight. They fly at extremely low speed. They hover. The vehicles sometimes fly and can easily be seen with lights on them. And they have 400 cases of that. They even put out a map. So here's the map of the triangular sightings. And what do you see? Our famous 2008 Bucks County case, such a concentration there. I think that...
There, of Maryland into West Virginia is where you see the most of them at.
Mm-hmm.
We got reports in West Virginia say they actually see them flying alongside the mountain like they're testing out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's... when I was on the Anderson Cooper show, and he said that the government can't keep secrets, and I said, come on. You had the Manhattan Project. I said that the stealth fighters, 1976 technology brought out in '88. So they're working on these triangles. That comes after stealth. Stealth came out, they showed it in '88, and then in the '90s, through now, they're using these. And and I think if there was ever some sort of major confrontation, rather than losing a lot of military troops and stuff, I can see 5 of these things that are militarized just fly over to North Korea or Iran, do whatever they do. If they got some sort of sonic devices that disables you mentally, or lasers or whatever, that's our next generation craft, is these triangles.
Well, you have a craft like that. It's called Commando Solo. There's 2 of them. There's one in Texas and one in Carlisle, PA.
Okay.
It has electronic, it's mind control. You remember when they had...
Microwaves and stuff?
Yeah. You remember when we was in Iraq the first time, the whole platoon gave up?
Yeah.
That's because of that.
Oh, so they tested
that plane
it.
actually done. That's where they tested it at.
Right. I got you. They tested it. So and like I said, Fred, I think that our 2008 wave across PA of triangular craft mostly, it was this. It was the military. It wasn't extraterrestrial.
Well, we got in the last 6 months, we got 5 cases of triangular craft now.
Yeah, because they're just flying them all over. It's like a plane now to them.
But they got green lights on them now. Now they're saying that they got you got the point light, and then the 2 back lights are green. So that's totally out of proportion.
Well,
to what
they mean
been
something to them when they come into
Yeah.
land or whatever it is, So then, okay, so now we go look at Bigelow again.
Yeah.
He's gone from space, all of the stuff with triangles in space, to the Skinwalker Ranch. And you know what kills me, Fred? 4 years ago, we had George Knapp's as the dinner speaker at our conference in Philly. I had this book and I didn't get him to sign it. He should have signed it for me, and I forgot. I can't believe it. But so Bigelow owns the Skinwalker Ranch, right? So one of the key guys involved with the Skinwalker Ranch is Dr. Eric Davis. Okay, he's been part of all of this stuff also, right? So you look at him. He from '96 to 2002. He worked on the NASA Breakthrough Propulsion Project. He's the CEO of Warp Drive Matrix. I listened to an interview by him recently. You know what he said? And it's so true. He said U.S. ufologists, U.S. UFO people are a disgrace. He says they're pathetic. He says the real work is being done in Europe and other countries where they take it serious. He says, because he's upset, they're all upset. This whole group is upset at how this was handled, what the feedback. So he says that the ufology in the United States is a joke. And you know what, Fred? It's all entertainment, because everything's entertainment.
Okay.
The elections, the news, it's all entertainment.
We take what we're doing over there. That way, they can't get the Freedom of Information Act.
Right, or it's being done in a different country or an island.
So we're over there, and we're making it here like we're doing something totally different.
But I tell you what, though, the people I've met overseas in this field are very serious.
Yeah.
They're not like the David Wilcox and the Ancient Alien guys. This soda can was made by aliens. Whew, almost dropped it. You got glasses. Look, I knocked my coffee. Whoops. Now they know it's not real. You got glasses. It had to come from extraterrestrials. Come on. It's a joke. It's one of the worst things that's happened to our field is the Ancient Alien TV series.
But that's the way they make their money.
Well, it's because everything's about money. You got to make money at everything, you know?
Yeah.
So let's look at this guy. So he's talking about the Skinwalker Ranch. Now, he's talking about a ranch.
Yeah.
And what he says in this 2012 interview is that they heard, this whole group of people here, heard multiple telepathic voices in their head.
Right.
Remember my daughter?
Yeah.
When she got attacked by entities upstairs, she heard multiple voices in her head. And she saw shadow people all around the room, right? He said that there were images seemed to look like they were floating in a fluid. They could see images in some sort of a fluid. They told him telepathically to contact Jack Sarfatti and Hal Puthoff. Their work is important. Both of those guys are involved in this group with Tom DeLonge.
Yeah.
And Jack Sarfatti he's a physicist. He's also an atheist, right? Then they tell him, there is a war in heaven and tricksters. There's a war in heaven? So that's what these interdimensional or extraterrestrial, these are interdimensional, are going to talk about. There's a war in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So that takes you back to everything DeLonge said about aliens being evil, about consciousness, about these guys are heroes saving us from demons. It's everything I've been saying since 2014. You know, I believe that 100%. You pick out some words, some lines, and you get a pretty clear picture. We're not dealing with extraterrestrials. This is some sort of interdimensional, and I say it's mostly malevolent interdimensional beings. That they're malevolent.
Well, I think you have
and they're
good,
demons.
But I think you have good and bad. You have good and bad. You just don't have one.
Yeah, well, the good ones are angels, and the bad ones are
so
demons.
now we're talking. Okay, that's
And then we call them something else.
Yeah, but that's the war in heaven. You got angels, and then you got the demons that came down.
But that's what he's hearing at the ranch.
Yeah,
There's a war in heaven and tricksters. We're going to be deceived and tricked, which it says in the Bible, right? And is the trick the whole alien UFO disclosure? Is that the trick?
But are they saying that because they planned that thousands of years ago?
I don't know.
This is what I'm saying. We're falling right into what they want us to fall into.
Absolutely. And 70-80% of the people will fall right in line with the plan once it's announced.
Who knows when half these politicians go home there and turn into damn reptilians?
You know, I used to laugh at that.
Yeah.
V?
Yeah.
It could be real.
Yeah,
I don't know.
be.
I don't know. So then they say that there's a swirling black tunnel and shape-shifting creatures are seen.
Right.
They hear, now what does this sound like? 3 knocks, humming sounds, and paranormal events take place. They see a green fog and they're frozen, awake and unable to move. Right? Isn't that your typical demonic activity? You know, when you have that type of encounter with 3 knocks, they can control space and time with their mind.
Right. Well, the black thing, we got 2 reports in Michigan about there was a black swirling thing out in the field, and actually a Bigfoot came and walked in it, and the thing just vanished 2 times.
Well, there's something to it. I think that what they're describing here is real, and that whatever technology they got, I think they got it from the Skinwalker Ranch. I don't think I think it came from Skinwalker and not from space.
Well, but see, Skinwalker, you had a bunch of UFO activity out there too. So I mean, it was maybe the UFOs was actually doing all of this.
You know, I don't think they're aliens. I just don't. You know, and then you remember we did the episode on the Montauk Project, and you got that beast from the subconscious that comes through a portal. It's the same thing as the Skinwalker Ranch. So they all copied Forbidden Planet, or it's real.
Well, they had the wolf out there at Skinwalker.
Yeah.
When they first went there, the wolf was the friend.
Yeah.
Then he turned around, he started killing the cows. They shot him 52 times. The thing just looked at him like, what the hell are you trying to do here? You ain't going to hurt me. He just walked away.
The opening, here it is, the wolf. That's the wolf.
Yeah.
That's the opening.
Yeah.
The greatest couple of page opening of any book I ever read was that 6-foot wolf at the shoulders walking up, grabbing a calf, and them unloading 357s and rifles, and him looking at him. Dropped the calf and trots away. That was the greatest opening scene I'd ever come across, you know? So, all right, let's take a look at this aviary, because it's the same people. Whether it's the aviary, NIDS, Tom DeLonge's group, it's the same people. You got, this comes from Dr. Richard Boylan. He wrote a book. And it's about individuals in UFO-related national security projects. Okay, so, and it's the same people, and that's why so many of these people are connected to the Pentagon, you know. And one of the problems is there's too many of them that we all know worked with DOD, you know. So they say John Alexander, his name was the Penguin. He was the head of the aviary. He was the director of non-lethal weapons. And we'll ask him in Philly when he comes if any of this is true, right? But he'll deny it, I'm sure. The owl is Hal Puthoff. There we go again. The Hal Puthoff guy who's involved with remote viewing. That's how he got started. He was able to remote view while he was working for, I guess, the CIA or one of them, and they pulled him into another group to now weaponize that, if you can, you know. And he was involved in mind control projects, MK Ultra, right? So the Partridge is Jacques Vallée. Again, he's all time. And you know what? What did Vallée say? Vallée never says they're from space. As a matter of fact, he gives you all the reasons why they can't be from space. And then he says, constantly says, it's interdimensional, it's masking, it's this. He won't say it's demons or angels, but he kind of says it's interdimensional and not from space. Yeah, but he's part of this group. The Seagull is Bruce Maccabee, right? Who was the MUFON photo interpretive consultant. And I guess it says here that he debunked the Gulf Breeze case and all of that. But there's some good information with Gulf Breeze, you know. The Falcon is Richard Doty, another one who's going to hopefully be in Philly. So we're going to have two of these guys.
You think he's going to be there?
I don't know. Now the date, there's a conflict with the date. He's trying to see if he can move some things around. But I asked him, you know, he was involved with disinformation of Linda Moulton Howe and Paul Benowitz, and that's why I want to hear what he has to say, how he did his job at the Air Force and debunked all of this stuff, you know. But I asked him about this group, and he said no, he was not part of the aviary. It was Richard Helms who was the Falcon and not him.
Well, it depends on what year. Helms left in 60... So 70 something, when Helms ran MK Ultra. When they found out that MK Ultra was going with the government, it was having hearings on it, they shipped him overseas so he couldn't be testified. Yeah. So that's when it had to be then, around that area. That was about 75, 76, somewhere around.
But he's dead now, so if you try to, so you can't well, you know what, if this is interdimensional, maybe we can contact Richard Helms and ask him. But that's where it's headed. So that's the players, okay? So I think you're getting a good idea who the players are. Here's a copy of the actual thing from 2010 from the FAA, where they're saying to report UFO cases to Bigelow Aerospace or National UFO Reporting Center. They don't mention MUFON, which is weird. Bigelow just funded the MUFON investigations in 09 and 10, and then the FAA does not refer to MUFON. I think there's a little bit of tension there. There's something going on behind the scenes, you know? So
getting back to the aviary, what happened to MJ-12? Do they still exist?
I think they are. I think they're part of, you know, it's almost like the Illuminati or the Bilderberg meeting where you get those executives that show up. They're still there in the government, and, you know, they're in the office like the X-Files, and they get to call up to that little group that sits around the table. They're making the final decision when they find out about it. But there's a lot of stuff going on that I think they don't know about, you know. So DeLonge makes another statement that aliens are malevolent. So he says they're malevolent, he says they're demons, he says that they have technology that we have now that can move through, and that the group are heroes because they're fighting demons. There's something interdimensional about this. And in my mind, Fred, if you're talking interdimensional, you're talking angels and demons. That is my belief. And I know a lot of people don't believe what I'm saying. So I wrote that book, Case for UFOs, that talks about the government cover-up and they're from space. Totally from space. And my latest book is they're interdimensional, you know, the string theory of the unexplained. And then on religious sites, you find a lot of this stuff saying they're angels and fallen angels, they're not from space, and they don't come in peace. And they have a good case, too. When you read their literature and stuff, it makes a lot of sense.
But see, again, now you have the abduction, which we're going to talk about here in the next couple months, where they're saying everybody should be abducted. It's so nice to be abducted.
Yeah.
But again, if you look at who runs that, it's the government. Everybody involved in that was prior government. So are they trying to get ready to make it? I mean, okay, so you're abducted by an alien. Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah. Well, you know, Fred, 70% of people will believe anything an authority figure says.
Yeah, I know.
70%. But Fred, that's the whole social engineering thing that's going on right now in the media, in
Right.
politics, from Hollywood. If they tell you something enough times, 7 out of 10 people believe it. And to me, that is the most scary thing. They are socially engineering us to believe things that we have always said and believed were false. Now what they're telling you, this is good for you.
If you look at Hollywood right now, the kid that's home on Christmas, Jason or Jay, whatever his name, he's saying now that the little girl that was in the Poltergeist that died, she was actually raped in a satanic murder, and they murdered her. So now we're in Hollywood again.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, so, again, so who's running Hollywood?
I know.
The Satanists? I mean...
Well, I think I have those slides in the abduction thing about where a lot of these kids disappear
Right.
around certain satanic holidays.
Right.
And think about the kid being in Poltergeist, or if the kid had been Linda Blair in The Exorcist,
Right.
they want that kid as the sacrifice.
Right.
I tell you, Fred, I never believed any of this stuff, but the longer I live and look into this, there are things going on that's very orchestrated, very planned, and coming. And you know, the source of it is Europe.
Right.
It's not here. There are these European socialists like Soros and others that are really trying to change the world and everything, but for their own reasons.
Right.
And I don't think they're good reasons, So now let's move a little forward into our thinking. If this technology is coming through some sort of alien occult knowledge, right? Because of what Delonge says about it being evil and all of that. You already said, we know 1970 was Operation MK Orphan, where they wanted to harness the powers of the dark side. And that came from Gordon Thomas's book. And we've already talked about the Collins Elite and MK Ultra and all of that. So then I went even further back to Dr. Herman Oberth, who was part of the Manhattan Project, and in regards to the atomic bomb, he says, we cannot take the credit for our record advancement in certain scientific fields alone. We have been helped. He said that in 1954, somebody helped us. So there's something going on here, and So then, where I want to take this is, if it's coming from interdimensional, what is the future of humanity? This presentation it's not really about Bigelow. It's about what's the future of us. What happens when they're able to manipulate and put all of this in place and have you believing in the alien and stuff.
They always say that in a year 50-50, say for example.
2050, yeah.
It's going to be one specific breed, so to speak. There's going to be no more black, no more white, no more...
Yeah, well, you see them pushing that.
We're all aliens.
Hmm.
How many hybrids do you have running around out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, they could be, that's the hybrid program
Right.
to get this DNA.
They could be running the world.
But what is the purpose of getting this DNA? The purpose to get some of this alien DNA into you is that you're no longer in the image of your maker. And when Jesus returns, you're no longer human. That's why the flood happened and they got rid of the Nephilim and the
That's why
offspring.
they're saying that the aliens want souls.
From this we go into transhumanism, right?
Okay.
Should we alter a human at the DNA level so now when your grandkids are born, they're no longer human, they got some other abilities? Right. Should we do that? Or should we continue a form of evolution? Can we genetically engineer evolution, and can our minds handle that? If you're no longer human and you have other abilities, do any of them play on you psychologically? They're working on gene therapy, enhancing athletes, enhancing soldiers, making humans survive in space and in the ocean, brain implants that will stimulate certain areas, and then actually being able to take your mind and uploading it into a computer. Right. You got the religious reaction. Some people say that it causes a collapse in religion. Others say that the Vatican's part of the conspiracy. Does it strengthen the church? In 1938, you had the panic broadcast. 1960, the Brookings Institute referenced the panic broadcast and said you can't tell people the truth. But then in 2006, and I believe Ted Peters, he does the Peters ET Religious Survey, and he says the 7 religions would not collapse. The people who are faithful and believe will be even stronger believers. So you'll have this minority group that are not going to fall. But they acknowledge that there could be life in space, and they could be our brothers, you know? Balducci.
Yeah.
Father Balducci and Funès, most recent, around this same time.
And why would they have the telescopes?
Right.
Okay.
They're looking for something. The Vatican has a telescope in Arizona and Rome, and they're looking for something. But then again, Galileo was working for them too. You know, he had a telescope. But all right, so now you got Stephen Hawking. Is this going to be good for us, bad for us? He says we don't want to attract their attention. That's a mistake to attract their attention. You know, but then I come across this story that I broke out laughing. Stephen Hawking in 1986 passed away and was replaced by an artificial intelligence Westworld type being. Like, you ever go to Disney and you see Abe Lincoln talking, gets up out of the chair, walks around as a robot, you know? Yeah. They're saying that Stephen Hawking is not real. So I said, okay, so I look in a little further. The average person with ALS lives 4 years. Okay? Hawking has had it 55 years. He's the all-time record holder. Twice as long as the guy in second place. So yeah, I'm still wondering, is this guy even still here? Are they using Stephen Hawking with his animatronic voice in the chair? Are they using him to bring certain information out, disinformation? He certainly is an atheist, and he doesn't believe in God. You know, I laughed when I read this, and then I said, well, think about it. If they want to trick you, he's the most respected guy out. Him and Kaku, right? Well, we know Michio Kaku's still alive, I think. I don't know. But I had to bring that up because who knows, you know? So we've talked in the past, Fred, we did shows on alien viruses, genetic compatibility. The aliens aren't compatible with us, you know. Is there a deception? Is it part of the Antichrist? Is it interdimensional and not from space? I lean now that the space thing is the minority, and these are malevolent interdimensional beings, and that's the future we're going to have to deal with, is this interdimensional thing. So then the other thought comes to me, is does ufology and all the UFO groups have to move away from the extraterrestrial hypothesis? You know, we got to ask these guys, are you talking about extraterrestrials or interdimensionals? Because if it's interdimensional and it was never from space, isn't that a huge embarrassment for all of those groups that were out there? APRO, KUFOS, what was the NICAP, MUFON, all of them that worked on it from space, and it was never from space. There's never been a UFO seen approaching from space. Never. You know, there's some astronaut stuff with weird things flying around, but never from deep space coming here. So who says what? Not from space, interdimensional is John Mack, J. Allen Hynek, Jacques Vallée, Keel, like you said, Brad Steiger. That it's actually angels and demons. Lord Hill Norton, he put a report out there. Arthur C. Clarke, Whitley Strieber, Carl Turner, and Whitley Strieber's going to be at our Philly. We're going to have a conversation with him. Carl Turner, Joe Jordan, who will be at the MUFON Symposium in Cherry Hill. We can talk to him. Yeah, he's coming in from South Korea.
Like I said, he trained me.
Oh, Jordan, you know him. Yeah, he's going to be there. He's going to convert you to the religious side, because him and I are on the same page right now. Michael Heiser, Guy Malone, L.A. Marzulli, Chuck Missler, and myself. I put myself on that list there too. I leave it open. Aliens from space.
Put your name on there.
No, I'm going to. I should. I should put myself on there. You know, but I think everybody knows where I stand. So, how do we determine our future if we don't know how we got here?
We can.
But that's been the essence of the 8 books I've written. Where did we come from? Because it's really important, Fred. If God,
they don't want us to know, John.
Yeah, but you know, Fred, if God created us, we shouldn't alter the pattern. You know, we shouldn't make you have gills and Kevlar skin. You're no longer human, you know? And if you believe in the Bible, then you're not in the image of the Creator. If it's evolution, then yeah, man, we're going to upgrade your eyes, your brain, your skin. We're going to evolve you 2.0.
But the point is, John, who is God? That's what you got.
I think God is what they say he is.
Okay.
I don't think he's an alien.
Okay.
I don't think he's a really powerful alien. I think he created everything,
Okay.
and that's the beginning and the end.
Yeah, but again, is there a war going on in heaven?
Yeah, I do think that.
Okay,
But
but
those
who
are with
is that?
angels and
Okay.
fallen angels.
Okay, so now this is what you got to look at. God is up there; He's here now. The angels are here. It's all from that thing, and that's what we're looking at. That's interdimensional.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
It's not from space, it's interdimensional. And I think when these guys say they're alien to us.
Right.
An angel is alien to me.
Yeah.
He's not human, he's alien to
yeah.
me. But he's not an alien from space.
Right.
And I think that's the point, and it's just semantics is what it is. And again, if we don't know where we came from and we evolved or whatever, then all this transhumanism stuff and super soldiers, that's where it's going to go. You know, I want to conclude with this, Fred, because you know what? We point fingers at the Richard Doty's and the Phil Klasses and the Howard Mengers, all the guys that debunked UFOs from space.
Right.
But this is what Phil Klass said when he died, and I don't remember when that was, 20, 30 years ago. He said this, and it's totally true. What he said was, no matter how long you live, you will never know any more about UFOs than you know today. You will never know any more about what UFOs really are or where they come from. You will never know any more about what the U.S. government really knows about UFOs than you know today. Right? As you lie on your own deathbed, you will be as mystified about UFOs as you are today. And you will remember this curse.
Right.
And you know what, Fred? Because UFOs are not from space, they're interdimensional, you can never, ever get proof.
True.
And that's what I believe.
I agree.
That's our episode. Thanks, Fred.